right, we're live.
All right.
So, so everybody, so what we're doing here is we were talking, and a lot of what we talk about on a daily basis has turned into more of a political scene since it didn't used to be that way. I mean, back in the day, you know, people looked at you as like, ooh, he's talking about politics. Oh, God, not him again, not her again. But now that's completely changed, and so we're bringing to you guys. We're going to talk about a few topics offhand. Andy's with me, a little bit about myself. I'm a degree in criminology, 4 years bachelor's, and then just work out in the marketplace like a normal human being. Nothing too crazy. But Jesse and I also have been doing podcasts for about a few years now. Used to do some publishing and working with authors and whatnot. So we were kind of discussing, and I was talking to Andy, and we were talking about what do we need to do to kind of be more relevant, and you know, how do we help out from what we're seeing, kind of our table talk, and how do we reach people? And this is what we came up with. So, Andy, I throw it over to you. Say hi.
Oh, hello, everyone. It's nice to be on the podcast.
It is. So
Very first one.
tell us a little about yourself, Andy.
We finally have a girl.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have a pharmacist background, so I've been in college for a long, long time. Yeah, I just recently got into more world news and politics. I think I owe it to my daughter because having a kid changes you, as Jesse knows. And
I don't know anything about it.
Jesse's had 6 changes in his life.
And maybe Matt to soon find out.
Yeah, we'll see how it works. I mean, that's another thing is when you talk about COVID, it's do you want to bring a kid into this world? You know, COVID has created this whole habitat of humanity right now where people aren't nice to each other, and you really think about that. And not to say that, obviously, I'm not being a naysayer, not bringing a kid into the world, but it's one of those things that kind of makes you think twice. It's how people react now to you, and you got cancel culture and you got everything else, but directly to COVID being the topic of this discussion, it's crazy. Mm-hmm. Good thing is daycare. Monica's home for the rest of the year, so I mean, for that purpose, working from home actually kind of works. You know, you're not spending 40.
Wasn't Monica saying that she didn't want to be a stay-at-home mother? Like, remember, she was like, I'm never going to stay at home.
Yeah.
This whole year, she just took off the whole year. She's just going to be at home.
Damn you, COVID.
You know, she's just going to be, you know, over here with an apron on, cooking food stuff. Exactly what she said she wasn't going to do.
Well,
so I just want to point out that Monica's a hypocrite. That's my point.
I don't think she owns an apron.
Actually, she doesn't.
I've
been afraid to buy one.
I would imagine if she did, she would probably make it herself. Because
Yeah.
she's so goofy.
She is. I know.
She has to have that touch, though.
It's good.
She's creative. She's very crafty. All right, so what was the COVID stuff?
Well, what I was saying was, I mean, that's also a part to COVID is a lot of people now are at home more than they used to be. So not only do you have the economy that's shut down, but you also have people at home that are working from home, that are seeing each other more often, or one spouse is not working at home, one spouse is out in the world making a living because they're deemed essential. So I think it creates a lot of different situations that people aren't really accustomed to, and a lot of different nuances with stress and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then you got so many different scenarios coming out, and it's like, what do you believe? You know, which path do you believe? Do you believe the White House? Do you believe CNN, Fox, all these other news outlets? And I would have to say no to those. And it's just scary, especially with Trump's order to have the CDC reporting go directly to him. So, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
I don't think I know too much about that. What is the purpose of that?
I thought it was actually going to, which department's that going to now? Is it, I just can't think of it. Is it?
Yeah, so if you look at some of the USA Today reports that are coming out now, there's some people trying to block it. But essentially what it is, and I was reading up a lot on this last night and through some of these articles, mainly if you go to any kind of CDC website, because their website crashed and all the data came down. And so the news was blasting Trump like, oh, look what happens. He says all the data's going to go to him, and all of a sudden all the data disappears. Actually, it was the CDC that took it down themselves.
I hadn't heard that.
It was like an update, yeah. And then but they put the information back up. But what they're doing is Trump has hired 2 outside companies to run the data. because they say that they can do it faster and better than what the CDC is doing. And there's a lot of conflicting information because people inside the CDC are saying that the systems that they're using are clunky and outdated and need to be updated, which makes sense because it's the government. I'm assuming a lot of their shit's outdated, but also too that you got other people saying, okay, well, he's just going to manipulate the data because it's an election year, and so then you have those fears, and which I can see happening. I mean, it's not like Biden doesn't manipulate data, or other people don't manipulate data. So, but I'd have to research more on the independent firms, but that's where it's going. It's going to the White House, but they're hiring people to help facilitate it. Is kind of what they're saying.
Was there an issue that was pointed out to make this move? It seems kind of random.
Well, I think he's been very unhappy just with CDC, Fauci, other people that have dealt with it. I mean, obviously the World Health Organization. That's why we're cutting the funding of the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
I think he just sees it as just a tremendous failure across the board. Doesn't like the information, and he may just not like the results either. And it's not really like, I mean, Trump could have necessarily done anything different. He's not a doctor. He doesn't do any of this stuff himself. But I was thinking this was going to a different governmental department as opposed to the CDC. I just can't remember.
Probably China.
I swore I heard Tim Pool say, but I just don't remember now. Yeah, probably China. Yeah, there's so much China. But I guess this whole piece is about COVID, so we're gonna stay focused on the COVID part.
I mean, that's a big piece of it too, and just in topic of reporting, just in general. But there's I'm gonna find that link. I had it pulled up earlier.
What's funny, is they try to say, because people are trying to say that China's handling it way better than we are. And if you look at, originally China had said they had like 80,000 cases or something like that, right? Well, a few weeks ago, they finally reported that they had like 90 million tests. And all I'm saying is, if you only had 80,000 cases, what are you doing 90 million tests for? Yes, I don't trust a single thing coming out of China about COVID or anything else.
No.
And they had multiple lockdowns. From my understanding, they were like locking people in their homes until they died. Which is one way to take care of it.
So this is from NPR. It says the CDC's old data gathering operation once worked well monitoring hospital information across the country, but it's an inadequate system today. The president's coronavirus task force has urged improvements for months, but they cannot keep up with the pandemic.
Yeah, so I see on your thing right there that, and I was thinking that Tim Pool said this, but HHS.
Yeah.
I was thinking he said the information was going to be there instead of the CDC, which I don't necessarily know what that entails. I just know that it may not be public. I'm not sure.
What is HHS again?
It shows it on there. You might want to scroll up because I can't. It's a one right above it.
It's Michael Caputo. He's the Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, and he is defending the administration's decision, saying the CDC system was too slow. So that was Trump's problem. Is like they're too slow in reporting cases. So in Trump's eyes, they're saying, "Oh, we're getting all these spikes, but the information is not being reported quick enough." So because I guess people are saying that Trump's not doing enough testing, but the testing models are themselves may not be accurate, but two, it's Trump is saying himself that we're doing more testing than ever now. Probably exactly what he said. We're doing more testing than ever before. It's the best testing ever. But
the testing, there's quite a bit of a delay. Like I think I've heard 10 to 14 days, which is useless.
I had a friend who his living-in partner came down with corona, and it had been 6 days, and he had still not got his test results back. So really, the spike on the coronavirus. So I think some of that is kind of why it's being pulled towards the White House. I'm just sick of all the misinformation.
Yeah, the HHS, and I just wanted to be sure before I just stuck my foot in my mouth while we're filming it. It's Health and Human Services.
Oh,
so,
makes
sense. So they're pushing it towards that department. So the CDC, I don't understand all the reasons why, but I just know that's so. Sure, could it be nefarious? I mean, anything that Trump does is nefarious these days. So it makes it difficult to decide what really is going on, what's not.
So if you cry wolf so much by the media, then we're just going to kind of ignore it.
And that's the biggest problem, because then eventually it's like, if even though he's made plenty of mistakes, if you constantly say everything's a mistake, then it makes it difficult to decide whether or not anything's a mistake, and you just tune out.
Yeah.
which is kind of where I've been.
Yeah, exactly.
So looking at some of the data, when it's saying it's moving to the White House, what they're saying is the main thing is no one is taking access or data away from the CDC. And I was talking to people yesterday about this, and they were like, "Oh, look what Trump's doing. This is like a dictator. He's pulling information away. That information is not going away." The CDC announced themselves on their own website that they're still going to be doing analysis. They're still going to be the CDC. This information is just going to the White House area first for more impromptu reporting, and it's making like all the headlines you see are like, Trump taking over the world, or Trump's doing this or that. And Trump didn't even mandate mask wearing. Like, so in one instance they'll call him a totalitarian dictator, but he's not even mandating mask. And I didn't even vote for Trump last time, and it's people like that make me like, hey, listen, now you make me sound like I'm defending Trump because you guys are saying some crazy stuff that doesn't make sense. Like, he's not out there mandating, people stay inside their homes. He's letting the governors do that.
Well, you need to understand, Matt.
Federal versus state laws. Hello, that's the foundation of this country.
The reason he's not doing those things is because he doesn't care about human lives, obviously. That's the reason why he won't mandate the mask. It's not because he's not a dictator. It's just because he wants more people to die. So you just have to understand, where he's coming from.
I don't think in general people are that nefarious.
No,
I just don't. I think that you could say all the people that were killed in drone strikes over the years from Obama, where he just wanted more people to die. I think it's a fallacy argument.
I just don't buy it. I don't buy it, and I don't like it. So it's just, sure, we've certainly made mistakes, and not only that. I mean, I think most of the people's problem that they're pissed off about is that they want a more federalized system that we just don't have. They want a president who they specifically want, because like the left, they don't want Trump to do this necessarily, but they want a president who will like really exert federal rule, and then will come into those states and be like, nope, we're all wearing masks across the country, or we're all doing this, we're all doing that. They want this big plan, this big huge government apparatus to tell all the states what to do, and our system has never been that way.
I don't think we should do that either because it's so different. It doesn't make sense for a town of 2,000 people to do the same thing as New York City. It doesn't make any sense at all, and especially if there's no cases in those small towns.
Well, there were, I think, and I think it's still true. I know at least within the last 2 weeks it was true. The top three states in terms of COVID deaths, they had 42% of all COVID deaths in the United States.
I'll pull that up real quick.
Which was, you can pull it up on Worldometer coronavirus. Yeah. It's New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts, I believe.
Oh, it's still those three?
Yeah, it's still the same three, because the other ones, like the death rate has dramatically dropped. Of course, there's still lag time, so we're having a ton of new cases. If you go down, like, is that a...
Number one is New York with, right now, we're do it real time. So in the United States, there's 3.83 million cases. So it's actually probably higher than that because you have people that have not been tested that actually have the disease. That's another thing that people need to take into account. The deaths on that are 143,000 people have died.
Yeah.
So 143K.
This is the U.S.?
This is just U.S.
And that list you see, it's not filtered from top to most to least. I'm talking about like when you get to the deaths.
Yep. No.
So just pay attention to that.
Okay. Yeah. So right now, let's see here. Deaths, I need to filter it.
See, because when you do that,
it's not letting me filter.
Yeah, that's all right. Because I believe it's still. If you go to a Worldometer, and you type in coronavirus. Yeah, Worldometer coronavirus. It'll pull up the perfect thing, and then you can go to the United States, and it gives you pretty accurate information. It's other than the CDC or other organizations, it's probably the best you're going to find on the internet that gives real-time tracking. That's not the right site though, because that's the World Health Organization.
Oh, we don't want to talk about that.
Worldometer.
It's a whole nother can of worms.
So it should be I don't know, on my phone it pops right up.
Yeah, mine does too. Yeah.
Because I also search it a bunch because I was constantly watching it to watch trends per day.
Yeah.
And yeah, there it is right there. Coronavirus update.
There we go.
And if you scroll down to the United States, then you can filter by all the stuff that you want. And it's actually it's a very sweet little resource. It's not perfect, but
also while that's loading, another thing I wanted to pull up. The new system was set up by teletracking. That's going to be the new system that's going to be providing the coronavirus information. A private company based in Pennsylvania, which was awarded $10 million in contract to non-competitive bid in April. So it's kind of a slanted
That's interesting.
little slanted line right there. Non-competitive bid. I love when editorial people throw that in there, like we're not going to catch it.
That's really weird. I didn't actually pay attention to that. That's interesting that NPR.
Yeah, NPR.
That's on NPR, and
Yeah, they've been very biased lately.
Well,
They have not been very, and I don't mind NPR, but a lot of stuff because I used to go to them as like a periodical to go up there and do research, and then when I see stuff like that, it's almost like pseudoscience. That's very like a way to put it in there so you read it and you don't realize what you're reading. But it says
Like subconscious direction.
And it's linked too. They linked non-competitive bid in there. So I'm not sure what it's linked to. But in June, Senator Patty Murray, Democrat Washington, the ranking member of the Senate Health Committee, wrote a letter to CDC Director Robert Redfield asking why teletracking was awarded a contract on a non-competitive basis. So, I mean, there is some little backlying issues there. But again, it has to do with the Democrat asking why there's a non-competitive basis in there. But I do remember there being two companies.
did it ever come up?
Okay. Here we go.
Now, if you go down and click on the United States, it also gives a ton of world information. Keep going down a little bit.
It really bothers me
It just hasn't loaded all the way fully yet.
that we
Shouldn't be that far down.
our media talks about cases and they don't talk about deaths. They don't couple it with deaths.
Well,
it's just a one-sided picture when
Yeah.
there's all this other information we need to consider too with how we're doing.
Yeah. And it's possible that the deaths in the black and behind keep going up, Matt. Keep going up. Because it should have it should have been a breakdown of states.
Here we go.
It's very odd that it loaded the way it did.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Okay,
there we
so
go.
this is what I'm used to seeing.
Go ahead and flesh that out, Andy. What do you mean by when you talk about when they're not reporting the deaths in there? Go ahead and flesh that out a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
I feel like a lot of the mainstream media just talks about cases, which, yeah, we're seeing a lot more cases. Who knows why exactly? There's a lot of different factors to consider there, but you don't talk about deaths and how we had that big spike in deaths earlier, but now it's like either plateaued or it definitely hasn't gone up. There's still the lag, but I think we would see a little bit of a spike if because of the increase in cases. But I think it's an incomplete picture if we just talk about cases and freak people out about cases, but then there's not really that many people going or dying. And we could also talk about hospitalizations too, because that's an indicator of how well we're doing too. As long as the healthcare systems aren't overloaded, then.
Do you have any firsthand knowledge of the healthcare systems at all about being overloaded, or I don't really hear a lot of reports coming out about that. You don't see a lot of headline articles.
No, like every once in a while I'll see it, but I have a few friends that work in local hospitals, so I've asked them like a couple times here and there. And actually, one of my friends said that they're seeing a bump in volume because of the delayed care, and people are now like that haven't had surgeries for like heart conditions or other situations are now coming to the hospital because their disease has progressed. So she's seeing more of that rather than like severe COVID cases coming in.
And that's another thing that I was to the people I was talking to yesterday. A lot of it curtailed with the fact that, like, okay, so what happens if I'm one of the 9 people that's in the 30s that gets lung disease because of COVID, or it brings out an underlying condition that they wouldn't have saw until they're later in life, but COVID brought that out in them. But it's such a small percentage, you know what I mean? But they're so afraid to take that chance, and I just think that at some point in time you're gonna have to take a chance. I mean, every time you leave your door, it's kind of Wild West out there. You don't know what's gonna happen when you drive your car. You're pretty much driving a torpedo.
Death trap.
It really is. I mean, but like I think too, is you look at the big picture and you look at how many elective surgeries aren't going down, people's quality of life, mental health issues that are going on. So let's look at the death total. So right now, the top 5 states are New York, California, Florida, Texas, New Jersey.
Top
No.
total deaths?
Did you?
Or is that top cases.
Go ahead and hit on total deaths.
Deaths is cases.
Yeah.
So deaths would be.
Okay, go ahead and
I'll filter down. Hold on.
Yeah, that's right.
There we go. Top total deaths. The top 5 states are New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, California, and Illinois.
Yeah, and they're quite a bit ahead because like New York is like 32, almost 32,500 deaths. New Jersey has almost 16,000, and Massachusetts has like 8,500.
So here's.
Well, how is that compared to the population? Can you filter on that one? Deaths
there is. If you go over, it says it does death per million as well.
Yeah, but just check this out.
You use the site a lot, don't you?
Just check this out. Look at this. So look at this. This is more important. California just had 7,000 new cases, only 11 deaths. So they had 7,540 new cases with 11 new deaths. And I'm not saying that any death is a good death.
Yeah,
no.
There are. Because the new cases, the deaths certainly lag behind by a couple weeks. But from my understanding, the death rate is also quite a bit down.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think so.
And I think it's going to continue that way. It's probably going to go up a bit, just because deaths per day are probably going to go up a bit, just because there's a lot of cases.
So
yeah. Can you filter by like deaths per?
Yeah, there's
1 million?
There's a death per million.
I haven't looked at that recently. I've been
deaths per 1 million population.
It's all going to be the Northeast.
New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, District of Columbia.
Yeah.
Louisiana, Michigan, Illinois.
So it's almost all the same ones, and then you eventually get
Delaware, Pennsylvania, Mississippi kind of sneaks its way in there.
So even normalizing by population, New York, who supposedly they've killed it.
Supposedly they've done the best. Ben
Well, I guess they literally killed it.
Andy was really wanting to talk about. Go ahead, Andy. What were you talking about, Governor Cuomo?
Yeah, he was selling a poster about how New York is. What do I want to say here? They've mastered COVID and conquered it pretty much.
Yeah. Have you seen the actual poster?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Well, I've heard people talk about it.
Yeah, Shapiro talked about it, and he also pulled it up, and then I looked at it online, and it's just ridiculous. And I think did Cuomo he paint it himself? Is that what I heard? Is it? Or
Maybe he had someone do it.
I just can't remember. I was thinking that he might have painted it himself.
He didn't seem like the painter type.
I don't know. It could be.
I also saw a video. I didn't get a chance to listen to it. That Dr. Fauci was saying that New York was the model state.
Really? I think he just said that within the last 24, 48 hours.
Yeah.
Because they have such low death rates now, but at the same time, they also allowed it just to go right through their population. So sure, they have low death rates now.
You know it's bad when New York Post.
Is
coming out.
New York Post is kind of on the right. They're on the right side anyway. But
see, this is what. Given I just kind of listen to more independent news sources. It's where you gotta stick with, man. These multimedia conglomerates are just nasty.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't actually even read the New York Post because I know they're slanted enough that I kind of stay away from it. Mm-hmm. I will read it because sometimes there's only certain things, but I typically do not, and I don't post from there because I already know.
Oh, here we go.
I already know how people are going to act.
Unpacking Cuomo's COVID-19 poster. This is from New York Times.
It's pretty hilarious. It's just a funny poster to begin with.
An octopus is guiding a cruise ship. President Trump is sitting on a crescent moon, but don't get distracted by that. Beware, winds of fear. The incoming plane of Europeans and the boyfriend Cliff. That's how this article starts off.
What? Are they actually talking about the poster?
No, it goes, we're not describing a fever dream, but Governor Andrew Cuomo's new New York Tough poster, which depicts the hardships of the coronavirus pandemic as a mountain that the New Yorkers have climbed. Mask rests on the summit's peak. Essential workers and the governor's daughters and dog pull the curve down. What we did was historic because we did tame the beast, Mr. Cuomo said on Monday as he introduced the retro political poster. His second this year. We did turn the corner. We did plateau that mountain. Then we came down the other side. So, I don't know if that's exactly. I don't think it's all not true. I think they've definitely plateaued as far as cases have gone.
Sure. No, I think it's true. And what
it's just weird that you would sell a poster.
Is that gaslighting? Is that the correct?
I don't think so.
Application of the term. Okay.
No, because I don't think he's not really spinning a web. He's just kind of misleading a little bit on the facts. because he still has the highest cases. They still have the highest deaths.
For some reason,
and a lot of nursing home deaths too.
Yeah, well, that was the thing, because there was so many states. I want to say there was 6 major states, including, I think, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, that their governors were making nursing homes take COVID positive patients. Now, we don't know how many people died. However, we do know that almost 40% of the total deaths in the country are from nursing homes.
At least.
And I think 25% or so of the deaths in New York are from nursing homes. It's like 20-25%.
So
I think it's higher than that.
I think Pennsylvania,
it's really high.
But I think Pennsylvania and New Jersey are both higher.
Here's some good news for Cuomo, though. If you do look at new cases, as far as new cases go, New York is not on the top 5.
Shapiro.
They are not in the top 5?
They're not. They are down. They're not even in the top 10.
No, they're doing really well.
So they're doing well as that goes on. But here's the thing:
is that due to 500,000 people leaving the city?
Well, I was just gonna say, you got a mass exodus of people. You've got, and that you got more libertarian, liberal built up of economy over there. So more people are probably gonna be wearing masks. I think masks have been mandated for a longer time over there. So there's a lot of things that go into that. I don't necessarily say that Cuomo wasn't correct by saying that like they've done stuff to help plateau their curve because some things are working. But I do think I think you're an idiot. I see it now.
It's such a goofy graphic.
It is.
And like it's not even the thing. I mean, like it's not good either. It's so weird. Like the whole thing is just weird.
It has a very, you know how everybody's all into the conspiracy theories that like people are like lizard people or like these, or like child sacrificers, but like it has a very paganistic feel to it. Like with the sun and like the mountain.
It's definitely bizarre. And you like
look at this.
Shapiro was like, why is there a rainbow above this? He's like, what's up with this rainbow?
LGBTQ.
It's like, what is going on? So like they're at the top of the mountain. I don't understand what is meant. It's very bizarre.
I think it's a little bit of pandering for sure.
It's so goofy.
He is holding another thing I will say about this poster. He's holding an American flag. That's brave because he did just kind of a lot of the groups that are supporting BLM or a lot of other groups, are trouncing on the American flag right now, and he's actually holding it. So I'm surprised to see that right there.
And the top banner does it say "Love Wins"? Is that what it says up there? If you scroll all the way up,
yes, it does.
Yeah, it says "Love Wins" at the top. It's like, wait a minute, what is this about again?
I think that's part of the LGBT.
It's just like, what does it have to do with the COVID?
What's the guy?
I don't get it.
I'm going to save this image so I can put it in the video. What is the guy blowing the wind guy? Is that Father Wind or what's this guy?
Dude, I don't know what New Yorkers do. I mean, it's possible. Maybe I'm not gonna lie,
and I think it's just because I remember 9/11 very clearly. Whenever I see a plane and the mountains in front of it, it kind of gives me. And we're talking about New York. It kind of sends me back, like not good imagery. You know what I mean? They got Trump on a crescent moon, which
why?
I don't.
Because are they poking fun of him?
I don't know. I wish I knew.
I'm sure that I can assure you that it is not positive.
But I just think it's funny though that it does have a paganistic feel to it because you got the crescent moon, and like the weird looking sun. Dr. Wind over here. I don't know who these are. These are essential work. Is that Dorothy?
Dude, who knows?
It looks like Dorothy.
It's such a bizarre thing. I mean,
yeah, it is. Do you know much about why Dr. Fauci said that about New York? I guess I'd be open to listening about it.
I didn't actually read that specific article. From my understanding, though, is that it's because the rates have dropped so much. Now, Ben Shapiro, obviously not a doctor, and I know I've already brought him up a couple times. He was talking about it. Yeah, I guess that's definitely not Dorothy. But he was talking about it, and he was like, well, maybe one of the reasons that New York has so few cases now, because a lot of the people who would have got it based on riding the subways or doing whatever, they've already got it, and there's a high percentage of antibodies already in some of these boroughs. So maybe that's part of the reason. And surely it is, because what else has changed? I mean, what did New York specifically do? Because let's say, like California, LA County specifically has had like some of the most stringent laws on this. They've had some of the mass laws the longest.
They're still locked down.
And they've just had a tremendous rise in their cases.
Well,
and if you watch
the family visiting each other.
They had the same kind of not like New York, But, cases rose up, and then they flatlined it. Then they put in the mask mandate, and now they're rising again. And it's not just because they're just specific, because they're the ones who didn't reopen, right? I mean, they're the ones who were shutting down the beaches, shutting down the parks, making everybody have masks when they just go outside and do anything. Some of them, I think, even for exercise, and so
that should be like our.
Here's another big number that no one ever talks about. So when you're talking about coronavirus, and you're talking about the news and what you really need to kind of know, go to these websites. Go to CDC. You can look there if you don't trust the worldmetersinfo.com, I think is what it's called. You can go to the World Health Organization. Just remind you that they're also kind of corrupt. But if you look at coronavirus cases just by general, there's 3,893,963 cases. There's 143,263 deaths. And the number that you don't hear about is the recovered. There's 1,802,123 recovered people from coronavirus. That has just been reported. That's not people that have recovered because they've never admitted it, or people that just stay home for 10 days. So, if you call in right now to where we work and you say that you have a sniffles or anything, you're automatically out for 10 days. So, with that being said, there's a lot of people that don't get tested. They just take 10 days and they come back to work after that. And they may not have it. They may just have allergies or whatnot. But that's something that's not taken into consideration too. So the death percentage number is actually way lower than what's actually perceived, because there's so many people that have it that just never get tested. I'm almost for a fact, and this is kind of me being a little bit progressive, I'm almost for a fact where the government mails tests out to everybody and just everybody takes a test.
Massive antibody testing, like big old antibody testing, would be interesting to see.
It would give you a very good picture. I know that a lot of the scary things that go along with that is like, oh, then they're going to have your DNA and like all this. I mean, they already have your DNA. If you're that far down the rabbit hole, they already have your DNA. Okay, they can track you right now. They've already collected all of our metadata. I think it'd be very interesting. Everybody should. I don't like to say mandatory testing, but don't make it mandatory. But the federal government forks up the money. They get the test and they mail it to every household. On census.
If we got enough people to do it per state, we could probably come up with pretty good percentages based on, all the already statistical data we take, and how we do polling and stuff like that. We could probably come up with a good idea of how many people have actually had it. My guess is, though, because I think it's 5 to 10 times higher than the number we show. Just a total guess, but like on the antibody testing I have seen, it was usually there was some that were up to 30 to 85 times the amount, which were done in New York and I think in Santa Clara County, or maybe San Francisco. But there was 2 locations in California, and there was at least a couple locations in New York, and the antibody test showed anywhere from 30 to 85 times the amount of people actually had it.
That would be cool if we could get everyone to take it at once, because that would be the best we got, because we know who exactly has it and who doesn't.
Well, I think it would settle a lot of nerves, because right now there's such a unknown about who's getting tested, why they're getting tested, when they're getting tested, who's making people get tested. Because another thing too, and then we'll wrap this up, but another thing too that's a concern. So sending kids back to school is something we should discuss real quick. And some of the things that are brought up that do make sense. How many parents send their kids to school that are sick, even with the regular virus or flu, just because they can't afford not to? So
daycare is the same way.
Daycare is the same way. So you're gonna. So the problem is we have to come up with something, because people have to be able to work. And if you're not going to introduce an UBI, or you're going to cut the stimulus check down for coronavirus, right now Forbes magazine just put out an article yesterday, and they were talking about that the Republicans are wanting to move it down to $40,000 per household, which is insane. They shouldn't move it down at all. You can give $5 trillion to corporations, but you want to lower the threshold? I just don't agree with that. So I think that's dumb if Trump lets that go on. I think that would be, if he doesn't fight that or come out against it, that's going to be a big knock against him.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I don't even think, because regardless of whatever you think about Trump, whether he's good, bad, whatever, I don't see that him allowing that to happen. Like, I don't, because I think he understands enough that it's like, okay, it's an election year. Even worst case scenario,
give everybody money.
I think Trump would be like, no.
In the economics of things too, like he understands how the economy goes.
In that way, he's certainly not dumb. Like, he's going to pay attention. There's so much stuff about the schooling stuff. It's like another thing. I hate to keep bringing up the same person, But Ben Shapiro again, like he had this really good piece about schooling, and they were talking about the teachers being the ones most at risk. He said, well, why don't and this was actually a different conservative's idea. I don't remember whose, but he was just touting this person's idea that why don't we have the kids go back to school? Everybody wear masks, whatever they have to do, and if you have to have the teacher zoom in. Have the teacher zoom in and have like a younger teaching aide teach the class. So like somebody that is much less likely to die. 20-something-year-old teaching aides teaching the class, having the main teacher zoom in if they have to, and having the kids still at school.
Oh, man, I just don't. That almost seems ass backwards, because it's like, then why even bring if you're going to zoom a teacher in, why even bring the kids back anyhow?
Well, I mean, you're going to have to be able to do it to get people to work, though. Because
no, I get that.
Without being able to do that, it's a problem.
So, but here's the thing: is I think that the issue is that was brought up is, so your kids get it contracted, then they bring it to the household, then the family contracts it, then the parents can't go to work because they got coronavirus anyhow. Well, eventually, there's 60 million people got H1N1.
Yep, I was going to bring that up earlier.
60 million people contracted that disease. So it's just, I know they keep talking about curves, they keep talking about herd immunity, and I honestly don't know which way is right or wrong, but I can tell you right now that you're gonna get coronavirus at some point, because you can't stay inside, and the federal government just can't afford to give out money. You mean I am for a UBI, but you cannot just give that out anywhere. A UBI does entail people working. It's not. People think that UBI is like, okay, everyone can stay at home right now, get $1,000 per month, like Andrew Yang said. That's not what Andrew Yang meant by that. But what I think people need to do is you've got to focus on what are your risks, and I think the only way to do that is you get more people tested. And right now, I don't even know where to get tested. Because a lot of times you have to have symptoms.
CVS.
But you have to have symptoms to get tested, though, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you used to.
I think to get the faster test, like within a couple days, you have to have something extra. But I think you can go get a test, but it's like the 10 days or so.
I'm gonna go get tested. I really just want to know if I've had it.
I don't know if that's the antibody testing or if just a test, because
I don't think it's antibody.
Yeah, I don't think it's antibody
test. I want to know if I've had it or if I haven't, just to know.
Yeah, I don't know. And from my understanding, because I have a friend who just went and got one of these done, the CVS one, the free one, right? And I guess it's taken her like 6 days to get a result or something like that. I'm wondering if the free one, if it's a longer wait time because there's no money behind it, right? So it's just kind of like a...
And they're just so backed up with tests.
Yeah, because I mean, we are having a huge, potential surge.
Is Trump feeding money into a private organization going to speed testing up? Why aren't we hiring people to go to neighborhood like we do census bureaus? I mean, not that those people need to go door to door, but we need something that's that form. If we can mail out $1,200 payments, stimulus checks, or deposit checks, and you have everybody that has a tax return or that's recorded by a census needs to get a test. And even if it takes a long time, think about this. Think about if January comes around, we should have all the results in by January if you do that.
Well, they're wanting to try to get that. They're sure hoping that the vaccine is going. They're going to try to rush that out they're talking about this winter.
How many people do not take vaccines?
I was going to say that's very interesting.
It just depends on what percentage of people you can get to take it, and if you can get enough people to take it, maybe you get herd immunity if the antibodies last long enough, and if these vaccines work.
What if it mutates like the flu?
That's the other problem.
Yeah.
We just don't know. I feel like
we still don't know a whole lot, or we have conflicting information even in the scientific community. I don't know if that's due to infiltration of corrupt sources like China.
And that's part of it because, they say, I've seen some testing on kids, some studies on kids, and saying that they don't have a high not high volume. I can't think of how to frame it, but they typically don't give it to adults. It's usually adults who give it to kids, and kids don't typically give it to each other. That's what some of the consensus was saying, but then there are some other studies that don't necessarily back that up, and there's other studies that say that kids may have some of the secondary issues as well. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the death rates are really low.
Is it 0.025?
It's definitely low. I mean, it's dropped tremendously from the supposed 3.4% to, I believe it's less than 0.5% now for sure. But all right, is that about? Did you want to say anything else, Matt?
Yeah, it's gonna pull up the desk real quick. Can you put it by age on here?
No, but there is a great resource from the CDC that you can look at provisional death. It's a provisional death rate, but you can go by age groups from the CDC. I think I sent it to you the other day.
Little kids, it's
Yes.
hardly any
And you
have
can-
died.
And you
from-
can go week by week, from like 0 to 1, and then 1 to 4, and then it just has all the different age groups, and you can see how many people died per week through provisional death counts via the CDC. And it's pretty good information. And
I
that's
wish-
just deaths, though.
I wish they would do cases because I wanted to see with these giant spikes what age group was
Well,
it.
no, well, I think there was a chart that was out, and it was showing, from my understanding, the major age group. It was somewhere between 20 to 39. It was somewhere in there. It was
Yeah.
one of those age groups that I think was the predominant. Like most of the other ones have kind of been stable, and that one just kind of flew out of control. So they're thinking, maybe those people are just more likely the ones who go out, to go to bars, to go to clubs,
For
go
sure.
do whatever, and they're more
I
likely
know a lot
to
of
get the
people that go
disease.
down to the Ozarks because we're from the Kansas City area. So there's a lot of people that just go down to the Ozarks. I mean, they were all over the news. I think only one contracted case came out of that. Everyone came back negative.
I mean, I guess at least that's good.
Yeah. But
Or
I mean,
there's, protests are going on. I don't know how you
Well-
can say that does not contribute.
And then it's funny that how many different sources tried to say that that the protests didn't add to it. It's like, come on, like I get it, they are outside, but in some of those pictures you see thousands upon thousands of people standing shoulder to shoulder screaming.
Yes.
There are some people, plenty of people with masks on, plenty of people without.
So the CDC actually has it broken down by race, age,
Yeah,
and I was looking at the other day, and it talks.
that's not. I think there's a second piece to
There
that
is.
chart. I want to say that there's. Oh no, maybe this is a different chart, but yeah, there are, and you're also more likely to die from if you're male
And
as well.
we're also not talking about how deaths are being reported too. So the number of deaths with ammonia, excluding influenza, are different than deaths with COVID with those.
Yeah,
So I had
conditions.
heard, this is not verified at all, but I had heard that if if you tested positive but you died really from something else, like that was counted as a COVID death.
I think it depends on the state. There were hospitals, from my understanding, depending on the state, who, if you did have COVID and you died of something, that may or may not have been related, it was being counted in some states as a COVID death. It's true, but you'd have to go through the information. I can't remember which states were which. It's been a little while since I've looked at that data. Some people still try to deny it. It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a tremendous amount of.
Here we go.
This should not be political at all, and it totally is, and it just.
So this is from
Makes
the
me sad.
CDC's website. This is age groups. So below 5, number of cases are 7,184. Number of deaths 0.
Wait, what was that age group again?
Below 5, 0 to 5.
I didn't think it was 0, but I don't know the numbers
Between
for sure.
5 and 17, 25,729 cases, 0 deaths.
There's been like a handful,
Oh,
like maybe 5, but that.
this is hold on one sec. This is just in California. So
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Sorry. I saw CDC up there, but it was for California disease control, whatever. It's so stupid. But okay, so this is in California. Okay, this will still work though, because there's still 3,084. So there's still in California. There's 384,692 confirmed cases. 7,000 deaths in California. The majority of all those deaths are 80 plus. There's 3,357 deaths on the 80 plus range. 75 to 79 is 903. 70 to 74 is 828. 65 to 69 is 721. 60 to 64 is 570. Then you go to the dramatic drop offs. 18 to 34 is 94. Out of 134,000 confirmed cases, 490 confirmed cases, there's only 94 deaths. That's insane, and that's our age our age range, because I'll be 35 this year.
You know that provisional.
Still in there.
You were on a provisional website
Oh, I
that
was
showed
just
this,
there.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Go back to that real quick. Can you find that?
Yeah.
Because if you go there is a second page to that graph, and then you can look
Oh,
at
here
it.
we go. Age and sex.
Yeah.
If-
Perfect.
okay, now click on. There's a second page of that graph. Go down. It's at the bottom. No. Go back up. It's on the graph itself, but at the bottom of the graph, it'll say 1 of 2. Click on that little arrow, and that gives you
that's why I missed
per
it.
week. And the bigger number on the bottom is pneumonia and influenza.
Okay, so
and
let's just go.
The top one is dying of COVID per age group. And the provisional ones are still great. Because on the older ones, it's going to be even more accurate.
All sex, and this is from week 7-11.
Yeah, and we don't have to go through all of it because we probably got it in the video as well. But
so let's see here. We're still 75 to 84 is still total, still largest.
Oh,
there's
yeah, by
80
far.
deaths. So it is.
And it goes, but those are by week. So
Yeah.
each one of those is a
So
week.
one of the groups that have ticked up right now, that I do know is fact, is the 65 to 74-year-old range. Those have also gone up a little bit. But man, I tell you what, that's insane. Total deaths, there's 3,000. Let's see here, in that week, that was 75 to 84 years old, 3,744.
Yeah, that's COVID, pneumonia, and
Yep.
that's
everything. That's
like respiratory diseases.
Yeah.
it says at the top. I think it's COVID, pneumonia, and influenza. I think it's those 3 specifically.
Yep.
So when you go through like 1 to 0, you go by week, and you'll look at 1 through 0, and there's only, I think at most in any week there was 1 child that had died in some of those weeks. Which obviously is, I'm not saying that's not tragedy, not too many.
Yeah.
But by comparison, it's almost
under
all, 1.
It's barely anything, and that includes influenza and pneumonia, which pneumonia kills kids daily.
Well, and the influenza I think under 20, influenza is much more likely to kill you than
I would agree
COVID.
with
Now
that.
that doesn't mean there's not long-term.
So there's
the problem is the long-term
so
stuff.
there's total
Yeah.
deaths and there's total deaths and there's 0 deaths. Okay, so here we go. There's COVID deaths. Okay, so I missed that line. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's the way this graph is set up. It's very hard to see.
The smaller numbers are the
Here,
COVID deaths on
I need
there.
to hit this button. There we go. Oh, there we go. It's way easier.
Oh
to
wait,
see
you
now.
already have your glasses on.
I know. Well, it was so small. So COVID deaths for week 7-11.
Now the newest one's on there. The only problem with using the provisional
There's 80.
for
The total deaths reported to the CDC. That's every death. Total deaths is 3,744. There were 80 deaths due to COVID in that age range.
now the only problem
was
with
it?
using the
What age?
provisional.
That was 75 to 84. 85 and over.
Provisional lags behind though. That's what.
That's
'cause
okay.
There's
Yeah.
people who are online. They were like,
But we
there's
said
only
this-
this many deaths.
We
right?
said this was provisional already. So
Yes, the earlier stuff is way
do we
more
need to
accurate.
explain what provisional means?
Well, there was just some
We
people.
should probably explain that.
I have friends that post memes that say, hey, they're lying about their data. That were on a lot of these other places. They're lying about the data because the provisional ones were much, much lower. And they were like cut in half, right? Well, that's because a lot of people had died, and it takes longer for the CDC to get the information and confirm it, or whatever the process they do. So their number always lags behind. So the earlier weeks on there are going to be very accurate. And that's why, because I think the provisional one, I think that says there's 126,000 deaths, and we've had like 140-something thousand deaths. So it's not counting about 14,000 people.
But look at this though. But even if you go back to May 20th, check this out. This is from May 2nd, from 85 and over. There was 4,778 deaths on May 2nd. Then you go down to 7/11. There's 132 deaths.
Yeah.
That's per week. Now that's extenuating all the way through. Look how the
we're
drop.
we're doing a much better job of protecting older people and nursing homes and
I feel like that's something to be said. I mean,
So if you go back to
we're better protecting the population who
Let's look at
most
the-
likely to die.
and that's what'll keep that death rate down. If we can protect them and younger people get it, then
So let's look at older teachers between 45 and 54 years old. So that's right below the cuff of being able to retire. And May 2nd, again, there was 509 deaths from COVID. Right now, there's 12 on 7/11. Wow. So if
Yeah.
you look at that data specifically, and you talk about going the push to go back to school and that data, the actual death rates, even though this is provisional here, but if you go back to May 2nd, that's no longer provisional. That data has already been set in. We're talking over 2 months, and so it's really interesting to see the data right in front of you, because no one does this. No one specifically talks about this, and if it comes from a conservative source, and people are like, "Oh no, they're just conservative. That's why they're doing it."
it's a great link to include in the video itself. Like
Yep.
it's
And it'll be just
it's
down
a
in the
great
description.
Because
Yeah.
when I heard about this, I started going through it, and I was just like, well, it nicely breaks it down for age groups. it breaks it. I think it also breaks it down maybe between sex, but I know it does. I know it does sex, but I'm not sure about race.
It does sex, yeah, and that's the next one down is females. But I don't want to get into the female one very often because their death rates are naturally lower than men's anyhow. It's not even fair to compare the two.
I think it's 55,
women just
45.
Women just do a better job of taking care of themselves. It's just they go to the
Overall
doctor.
hygiene.
Well, not even hygiene. Like you guys go to the doctor. Like
Well, I mean,
go
washing
to the
hands.
Well, yeah, I get that. I'm just talking about just to the fact that. But here's the thing: is if you're sick, you guys go to the doctor more so. I didn't go to a doctor for over. I don't even have a primary doctor still. I haven't been to a doctor in 10 years. Okay, but you're a weird one. Pharmacist that doesn't have a doctor.
I'm trying. I wanted to, but then COVID hit, and so that.
Okay, so
yeah.
But still, but women have to do so many different things that men don't have to do. So men are lucky in that aspect. That's our privilege, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
You're opening up a whole other door here.
Yeah.
if dying 8 years younger is a privilege, then I guess sign me up for it.
It is actually. All right, guys. Well, this is hopefully informational for you guys. The main point that we wanted to do, especially COVID, was because there's so much misinformation out there, and there's very good websites you can go to. The CDC has great numbers if you want to scroll by age and by race or by sex. You can break down the data however you want to break it down, and you can extrapolate it however you want to. What we're reading to you guys is just straight off the cusp. It's right here on their website. The rolled meter is another one you can go to, and that breaks it down by U.S. cases and tells you be able to filter the data a lot easier. Cases per state, death per million. That'll help you guys out a lot. And then just the weird, funky stuff like posters. Like, what the hell, man? Like, we don't need that right now. You guys all talk about protecting people, and you're out there trying to sell people a $14 poster when you just gave $5 trillion to corporations, and you're barely haven't even passed a second stimulus bill yet. So, not good. But what do you want to say? Any last words?
No, I'm
Final
good.
last words. What do you want to say on your tombstone?
Oh man.
Hopefully New York tough. You see that over there? New York tough, right across top of there.
That's what you
Andy
wanted to
did not
say.
get that
Yeah,
reference.
on my tombstone to say that, please.
Have you even been in New York?
No, I haven't. Love wins is another thing that works. I mean, that would be on my tombstone as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
That's
All right,
fair.
guys. Well, thanks. Talk to you later.